till 11 on Friday. She's done
Barney, they mail it out of your car there.
We might be able to get more.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I just can't do better than that.
Our board budget has Sabrina Rodriguez with Auditor's Office, so she's the one that put together the financials for us.
Okay.
I was sitting at the table.
Okay.
And then for our next item, the bulk of that backup came from Corey Kennedy. He's vendor with 3M Cogent.
Okay.
And he's at the table next to Sabrina. And
Okay.
we can always call Michael Gonzalez up here. He pretty much spearheaded getting Corey here and getting all the backup for us.
Who should we call up? Or who should talk first? Mike, maybe?
Yeah, definitely. Ask Michael to come up.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, very good. All right, do we have a quorum? It's all good. It's all good. All right.
In fact, Councilmember Barrett is not going to make it.
Okay.
And I didn't hear from the district attorney. So.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
No, it's okay.
Okay, ready to go. Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to a regular meeting of the Cal ID Remote Access Network Board, the County of Madera. And at this time, I'd like to ask everybody to stand with me as we pledge allegiance to the flag. Ready, salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next, we'll move to public comment. The first 15 minutes of the meeting of each regular session is set aside for members of the public to comment on any item within the jurisdiction of the board but not appearing on the agenda. Items presented under public comment may not be discussed or acted upon by the board at this time. For items appearing on the agenda, the public is invited to comment on the item that at the time the item is called for consideration by the board. Any person addressing the board under public comment will be limited to a 3-minute presentation to ensure that all interested parties have an opportunity to speak. Any handouts to the board must be submitted to the chief clerk of the board for distribution to the supervisors. Anyone addressing the board needs to print their name clearly on the speaker sheet at the podium. Also, all persons addressing the board must state their name and county residence for the record. Are there any members of the public who wish to address the board under this definition? Seeing none, are there any additions to the agenda at this time? Okay.
No, Mr. Chairman, no additions.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Well, the first item would be item 5A, consideration of approval of minutes of meeting held January 25th.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Do we do a roll call or just simply just all those in favor signify by saying aye? Aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carried. All right. Still trying to figure out the protocol. All right. Very good. Let's move on to item 5B, update on the Cal ID Remote Access Network board budget. And I believe, Sabrina, you're going to be discussing that.
So I asked Sabrina to help out with the financials, and so in your packet is what she put together for us. You can see that she gave us the cash balance that we have available, as well as revenues and our estimated revenues. And then I also included the report that she puts together that we're required to submit to the state, so you can see what our quarterly revenues were for last fiscal year. And so if you have any questions, then Sabrina's here to answer any
Okay.
questions.
Very good. Are there any questions regarding the budget? Okay. If not, I'll accept a motion for action. Actually, this is just an update, so there's no action. Okay, very good. Thank you. Sabrina, you want to add anything, or?
Sabrina, is your mic on? I'm sorry. There you go.
Okay. I'm just hoping that we get some expenditure budget in there going forward annually, actually, revenue and expenditures. It just makes it so much easier when I do the reporting. That's the only
Okay.
request I have.
Very good. All right.
It's really never been a problem to spend money, huh? That doesn't happen very often.
Exactly. Well, very good. Thank you very much.
Thank
Okay, the next item is 5C. This is a discussion and direction regarding the Madera County Sheriff's Office CAFIS server and workstation upgrade statement of work. And I believe, Mike, you're going to address this issue, or?
Mike, do you want to just kind of give a recap, and then we can turn it over to Corey?
Well, I wasn't prepared to speak because I'm a shy guy.
Oh.
I'll get up there. Yes, what we were trying to do is our last RAND meeting, there were some various inquiries. One from Sheriff Varney. I think one of the options we wanted to look at was not only getting his workstation. That's different from our capture stations that like Chief Frazier, Chief Revere, and we have at our facility. It's pretty much 10 prints, but Sheriff Varney, he has an actual workstation, and that's everything that we do go through that workstation. And it's apparent that he has some problems with his entire workstation. It's probably because it's end of life. It's probably to the point where we need to look at what he did. So what we did, I believe Josephine is the one that made initial contact with Corey Kennedy from Cogent, and with that they put together a scope of work and of what it would cost for us to get that replaced or repaired. And Corey did a job of putting some other materials together as far as warranties. And then we also we asked at the time of the last RAND board meeting, we also added what are lease options for this equipment for the county as well. So Corey actually submitted some numbers, and I don't know, Rhonda, was that given to the board members as far as the lease options, the numbers?
The table that you emailed, yes, I
Right.
provided that, yes.
So if you'll look at that table that Corey prepared for us, and it'll show us some pricing for the lease options as well, if you're able to look at that. But I remember also back, and I want to bring it back on January 25th of 17, Corey also forwarded us a potential software and maintenance support agreement for our entire system as well. And I don't know if that's included in your package today, but I brought along a copy if we need to. Actually, Chief, it's a little bit more.
And maybe we're like a contract.
Yeah, and I think maybe we probably need to get a copy and get that to the board members, Rhonda, if we can, so that they can look at that, and then we can look at it if the board gives us direction on that. We can start getting county council to look at that as well, or give the board an opportunity to review it, and then redirect some questions to Corey regarding that as well. So basically, that's where we're at this point. We just needed to get some direction from the RAND board on how they want us to proceed with Cogent, so that we know how to asked Corey to get additional numbers. Sheriff Artie, if there were some things that you wanted specifically addressed and needed for your particular department, that would be a good time for us to do that as well.
Mr. Chairman, I just have a couple questions. One, I noticed in the quote, either Mike or Corey, there's no blue check devices in there. Are we anticipating that we're using the old ones we already have, or are we going to purchase them under a different?
We'll let Corey.
There's no blue checks in there currently in the pricing. If I just go back to the previous couple of meetings that I attended, we kind of came up with a phased approach. The first phase was to replace all the LiveScan systems, which was done last year.
Right.
And then those went into warranty period upon sign-off around this time last year. So the second part of the second phase was to set up a maintenance agreement for the LiveScans and any new equipment, which the maintenance agreement paperwork is there. I provided the quote for the pricing for the LiveScan maintenance, and then the third piece was to do the pricing for the APHIS system replacement. It's all aged and going end of life. Right. And then the idea was to, once that APHIS system is in place, then we can implement blue check units. There's not currently any blue check units in the county.
And if I could recommend to the board that the Sheriff, the last time we talked about the blue check devices, and I would also recommend to the board that we ask for any additional new equipment that may be out there since the last time that we talked about these devices, because I think Corey will agree with me that there has been some changes in that technology, and there may be something out there that the street agencies would probably be a little bit more interested in, that might be more functional and might meet today's needs for the street agencies as well. So the blue check devices are certainly out there, and this was the old device we used to use as far as blue check, and these are some of the new devices that are out there now, and what the capabilities are. I think that might be interesting to the law enforcement agencies to kind of ask those questions to see how your personnel out on the streets can benefit from those new devices.
Sure.
The main difference is the blue check is going to be paired to another device through Bluetooth, and these other devices would be a standalone device, so they have their own communication SIM card in there. It's all embedded PDA device in here, like a cell phone, so they can use this without being tethered to another device through blue check or through Bluetooth.
Okay. I guess the other question I have, because this is the price of the quote is a lump sum, and you did quote what we asked you to quote, but due to some personnel changes, we may end up needing 2 workstations, one at the Madera PD and one at the Sheriff's Office. How would that affect the quote? And maybe just if you have any information about implementation from your angle, and then I'll have some follow-up questions for the county IT folks that are here. And I realize it's kind of like short notice, but I just found out about 3 days ago that our main person is leaving, and I know that Steve's voters were kinder than our voters, I guess, and his public safety sales tax passed, so he may be doing some upgrades in how he processes his own fingerprints and other things in-house, and certainly if we were going to go with this quote, we'd want to know what the cost differences would be if we had 2 workstations instead of 1.
I'm sure we'll discuss it in a minute, but you might notice there's a $50,000 reduction in the overall quote for the initial purchase since our last quote was out.
Are you referencing the sheet?
Table that came out this morning, yeah. So if you wanted to add another workstation, there's room for that. And also comment that a workstation can be added on at a later date if you're interested in doing that. And the cost would be roughly $30,000 for the workstation.
Would that be per workstation? I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yes, roughly.
Thank you.
It might be a prudent thing for us to do is to, with the board members, with the agencies involved, is to discuss amongst yourself and prioritize a list of what would be priority in if we're going to make any changes. Because I think the stations that we currently have right now, they're probably well within the year warranty that we still have. So now would be a good time for us for the street agencies to prioritize what new equipment they may want to do, if they want to add additional stations, and then we prioritize that, and then we ask Corey to come back with a prioritized pricing for that so that the board will know in stages, because actually it's changing, if it makes sense what I'm saying, so that we can anticipate what will be installed and we can anticipate when it'll be on board, so that we really meet those needs that Sheriff Varney sharing with us. He, due to staffing and what his operation needs, that priority list may change, which makes sense. So if we wanted to take the time to look at that and come up with a prioritized list on what the RAND board believes should be prioritized, and then we move forward from there. And then that's what we deploy or re-implement or look at purchasing for the agencies involved.
Mr. Chairman, I think Mike makes a valid point there. I would suggest if the board wishes to entertain it, that maybe we put together a very small ad hoc committee to discuss this, because it's the police department and the sheriff's office that have kind of created somewhat of an inability to move forward here, and I would want us to be able to come back and, after reviewing all options, maybe we could have a board meeting before the last week in April to bring you, based on what Corey's given us and what the options are, what our recommendation would be for a future system.
Okay.
If that suits the board.
Very good. And the ad hoc committee would be you and Chief Frazier, or?
We are actually a board of 7, so I don't know if we could have a third person, or if 2 is the limit. I'm good with it being 2, but I don't want to force anybody out if we can have a third person on there.
I think for your ad hoc committee, I think 3 would be all right.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, all right. I don't know if anybody else wants to. I don't really think we need to, because it's basically something Steve and I need to work out, but, all right.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to be part of that, Jay. But
Okay, very
that's
good.
3. So.
All right, perfect. Excellent. That'll be good.
And Mr. Chairman, if I could just make one more suggestion. Whatever we decide, we always want to make sure that our partners from the ITs are on board with this, to make sure everything, no matter what we do, is going to be compatible with what we have, or where the forward steps that we're going to be taking, so that we make sure the money spent is taking us not only fixing our problem now, but it's going to take us into the future. So if we decided to grow with this system, that everything that we purchase at this point we can actually grow into it, so we don't have to sit here and discuss that again. I think that would be another point that we need to make sure that we at least
we would
consider.
definitely need to have that. Rather than ask all these questions today of IT and take up everyone's time, it would be better if we could make arrangements for Brian and Bruce, or both of them, to be at a meeting, so that we're not pitching anything that has an extended can-do on it based on tying networks together.
Yes,
I know
sir.
there's
I
a
totally agree.
lot more involved than just plugging it in there. So.
Absolutely.
Okay. Very good. And I just like to make note, in regards to the lease, there was a 6% financing charge. Since this would be a municipal lease, I think that's a little on the high side as far as what the market is. So if we could, see if we can sharpen pencils as far as the finance part of it. So
Okay. I brought that up with finance, and they told me that was a competitive rate. We actually don't do that many lease finance programs.
Okay.
So there was a discount applied to the initial purchase to help, I think, incentivize the initial purchase rather than doing a lease program.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah.
Maybe we buy it on a credit card. I don't know. Pretty close to credit card interest.
Yeah. Well, if you consider they don't get charged, they don't have to pay federal income tax, the lease company, where on a normal lease, which 6%, this would be competitive for a non-government entity. And so they're actually getting a much better yield on municipal lease than they would another one. So anyway, just something.
I think our finance department would rather just see a purchase rather than a drawn-out lease program.
Well, maybe we can take a look at I think B of A is the bank that the county deals with, so perhaps we can talk to their municipal lease division and see what they'd be willing to do. So anyway, something to consider. Saves a few bucks.
I'll go back to my finance team and see what they can do, too.
All right. Very good. All right. Thank you. If there's no other comments, we'll move. Thank you very much. All right.
Yes. I was informed that the system went down, I think in February. Is it currently broken down now?
I think Sheriff Barney,
as I know, it's
Sheriff,
down,
is
it's
yours
still
still down,
down.
correct? So
Not the input machine, but the comparison workstation that
Right.
Jesse uses, to my
you know,
knowledge, is
and
still
for
down.
investigation, I would believe
Yeah.
that's a major component that your staff relies on heavily.
Yeah, basically anything right now has to go to DOJ for comparison.
So we could, I mean, if you guys wanted to, we could still move forward with this project and add the workstation on later, if it's a matter of putting it at the PD side.
It may be a little
Premature.
broader than that, because Steve and I haven't really had a chance to discuss what we're going to do personnel-wise, and with budgets, what they are, if there's the possibility to maybe get by with one and share it. We just need to have a more in-depth, I appreciate that as an option, but he and I are going to need to have a chat, so.
Okay.
Very good.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Let's move on to member reports. Are there any members who wish to report on anything that hasn't been spoken about thus far? Okay. And our next meeting, I think we've discussed, it's
April 26th.
April 26th.
That would be the fourth Wednesday of the month.
I will not be here on April 26th.
Okay.
Is there any way we could do the 19th or even the 12th?
I'll check the calendar and make sure the chambers are available.
I think the 19th would be good for me.
19th, okay.
Yeah.
I'll take a look.
Okay. So, Rhonda, you'll take a look at some of those dates and poll everybody and see what we can do.
Right.
If the 26th is best for everybody, that's why we have alternates, but since we're making some pretty important decisions here, whatever
I think-
works best for the chairman.
Well, I can send an email out and make sure you're all available on the 19th rather than the 26th.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Yes. Okay. Very good. And if there's nothing else, we shall adjourn. And thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right.